This is Boxes and Briefs, a podcast with real-life business stories. But we will be asking the hard questions and challenging traditions. So broaden your thinking with fresh perspectives and solve problems for business success. Welcome to Boxes and Briefs. We have another episode. I'm Lisa Garrett.
I'm Lucy Montgomery.
And today we have with us Steve. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, good to be here.
So I've got an intro here for you. Steve Ballantyne has over 30 years experience working with 200 plus startups and established brands throughout New Zealand and Australia. He teaches digital storytelling at the New Zealand Marketing Association through his company Brand IQ. He helps businesses tell better stories using AI.
That's a great introduction.
It is.
Sounds like I wrote it.
Oh. Love that. But yes, we want to talk about AI, pros, cons, fears, dreams, all the rest of it. So how about you give us a kick-off of an overview of how AI is used in marketing today?
Yeah, love to. And thanks, guys, for inviting me along. Any opportunity I can get to talk about AI is a wonderful opportunity. So I think I'd like to start off by saying there's a lot of negativity and hysteria around AI. There really is. And some of it is warranted and some of it is unwarranted. But if we draw the curtain of hysteria aside and really look at it as a practical business tool, it is an amazing tool to create more efficiency and productivity in your business. In fact, Harvard Business Review did a study with BCG consultants, and they put a group of them on AI programs to help with their consulting work, and they had a group of them not using AI. And they found that the consultants who were using AI were 30 to 40% more productive.
Yeah.
So we see it really as an amazing productivity and efficiency tool. There are lots of ways it can be used in marketing. You can use it to personalise customer experiences. You can use it in chatbots and customer service. You can use it in predictive analytics. You can use it for ad targeting and to really help you target your ads more accurately. But the area we sort of work in is in the content creation area. So we're using both generative text and generative imagery in the content creation work.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the imagery stuff I think is really the area where we have a really strong USP. And I think the thing we love about AI imagery, as much as again there's been a bit of bad press around the AI images with all the Boris Johnson and fake Pope and Trump sort of imageries doing the rounds on social media, as a business tool, what we really find is that it helps marketers who don't have a lot of money to spend on photography, who can't afford,
the studio, the photographer, the setup, the gear,
all of that,
the models.
And that can all add up. And many brands just don't have the sort of budget to do that.
Yeah.
So you can be a small brand with a smaller budget, and you can create images that are world class.
Yeah.
That are as good as an international brand.
I mean, I've always said when it comes to AI, like I remember when Xero first reared its head, and the saying was that accountants are going to die, or they're going to, be zoned out because AI is coming to take over their jobs.
Yeah.
Right? And what ended up happening is those who adapted the AI tool that is in Xero got better at their job.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
I think that's kind of the same thing that we should do with AI in any situation. You'll go, oh yeah, okay, it's there. And until it hits you, your industry, and affects your business, that's when you have the blip of fear, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I mean, I'm old enough to have been around in the desktop publishing revolution.
Oh.
Back in the day. Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore.
No, back when those little first boxy Macs came out.
Yeah.
And I was working as a designer and had one of those. I got one of the first ones. And there was a lot of fear around at the time in terms of what that was going to do to the traditional printing and graphics industries. But it's turned out pretty well. And well, then what made you front foot AI? Why have you not had that blip of fear, or did you? Well, yes, I've always been an early adopter in terms of back when I had an agency in Tauranga, we were one of the first agencies in New Zealand to have a website. Now, sadly, I didn't go on to build a really successful web dev business off it. I actually had a PA who was working for me at the time. We went out and set one up and did really, really well. Yeah, I didn't follow through with it, but I've always enjoyed being an early adopter. What really triggered it for me was I got COVID it was probably close to 2 years ago, and was at home for a week.
Yep.
And had been reading quite a lot about Midjourney, which is one of the generative art platforms, and thought, look. And I'd been an artist when I was younger. When I nearly went to art school. Nearly went to Elam. I know. Thank God I didn't actually. Like, I would have ended up taking a lot of drugs, partying a lot, and probably would have been an artist and probably not making any money. But thank God I didn't. I nearly went to Elam.
But we're not stereotyping at all, are we?
No, we're not. We're not stereotyping at all. Apologies to all Elam graduates. But I got COVID and I just decided I was going to deep dive into Midjourney for a week.
Cool.
And literally while I was at home with COVID, I just obsessively just jumped into it for a week and particularly learned the ropes. Yeah.
Okay, so we wanted to talk about the AI scandals.
Yeah.
There's a few around.
Yep.
There's Emma Watson had a sex video with her face put onto someone.
Yes.
And, Kate Middleton's whole edited family photo thing that went on, and maybe a bit of Photoshop, but also a bit of AI in there as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of poor Photoshop work.
And then you can kind of see different platforms are taking down stuff because it's fake.
Yes.
So where's the line then?
Yeah. Well, I think first thing I'd really like to say about that is, have you seen the movie Oppenheimer?
Yes.
Yeah. So you think about the whole idea of, I think it was Ernest Rutherford who first split the atom, wasn't it, a New Zealand scientist, which led to nuclear technology.
Yep.
So you think about nuclear technology, it has a propensity for evil and it has a propensity for good. Because nuclear energy is actually one of the cleanest, most efficient forms of energy creation in the world, but nuclear technology also enables people to bomb the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
So any new technology that comes through, and even the internet,
it has an evil side.
It has an evil side to it.
Yeah.
And weirdly, the internet was pretty much grew off the back of porn. That was where all the traffic.
And then the dark web.
Yeah, and then the dark web.
Yeah.
So any new technology, it's a bit like the Force. It has a good side and a bad side. You just got to be careful that, use it. But But I'll tell you a really interesting thing about social media. Social media needs to be careful. I was reading an article the other day which was saying that all the AI sensationalist kind of content on social media at the moment is getting all the clicks.
Yeah.
Okay.
The clickbait version.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Like I saw a post the other day in the imagery space of these people are doing these series of images, Jesus images, shrimp Jesus. You've seen the shrimp Jesus, Jesus made out of shrimps underwater, which is crazy. But what the article was saying is because the algorithms are the social media algorithms are designed to reward, the most engaging content. And most of the engaging content at the moment is AI.
Yeah.
But it's all shit junk content.
Yeah.
They've got to be careful that, AI, a lot of the junky stuff, could actually kill social media off. Because I know a lot of my friends, now can't be bothered because there's just so much junk content on there.
Yeah, I remember, in the TikTok scroll of doom, coming across some famous person had cancer, and I went, oh no. So I Googled it in the news to found out it wasn't true. I went, oh, okay. And then the next time it happened, just assumed again it was a scam.
Yeah.
But actually that one was true.
Yeah.
So we're in this whole new age of news, especially after COVID, of what's real and what's not.
Yeah. And I saw this really interesting article the other day where somebody was talking about that brands now, their biggest job is really one to create authenticity and trust.
Yes.
Because we're living in the age of what's real and what's not real.
Yep.
Now, weirdly, just to be controversial, one of the criticisms about AI imagery is that they are synthetic, they're fake, they're not real. Yes, that might be true, but honestly, in the marketing and advertising world, we've been bullshitting the public for years.
It's true.
With fake models, with overly photoshopped images,
Yep.
with weird families on TV.
Yep.
One of the big things I have is I see a lot of bank ads on TV, and you see these beautifully composited, kind of racially integrated families that,
Yep.
just not super, without sounding a bit weird, they just don't feel very natural.
Right.
And so
Feels like they're ticking a ethnicity box.
they've been
or
ticking the
something.
boxes.
Yeah.
So we've been doing this in marketing for years.
Yeah, we have.
So I think it's just the fact that AI is very public, it's very newsworthy,
Yeah.
and it's still a bit like the Wild West in America when
Yeah.
they were settling it. The rules and the regulations and the sheriffs haven't come to town yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Things haven't been
let's talk about
sorted
that.
out. Yeah.
Because I was in a webinar that you ran that was
Yeah.
all about AI imagery.
Yep.
And we were talking about the prompts,
Yeah.
the stuff that you put in to tell
Yep.
the AI what you want it to do.
Yep.
And there were things like create this photo in the style of Andy Warhol.
Yep.
Those kind of prompts.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on the ethics from the point of view of the photographer or the artist that we're asking AI to mimic?
So I think there's two issues. Can I answer the legal question firstly and then talk about ethics, because they kind of tie
Sure.
into, because we did on that seminar
Yep.
got a lot of questions about the legal things around AI. So as you've probably heard, there's some big court cases going on in the US at the moment where the likes of OpenAI, people buying ChatGPT and Midjourney and DALL-E and all the others are getting sued by artists and writers and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
There is no disputing the fact that all these programs have been trained on all the data that exists on the web and in a digitised format. Any copy, any pieces of artwork, anything that's ever been produced, they've been trained on it generally.
Yep.
Okay, so, that raises some questions, although, that's a very, very hard one to answer, and it'll be interesting to see what happens legally. With the likes of Midjourney, you can use with the program we're on, we can use the images commercially. We don't own the copyright to the AI generated images. No one really does.
Okay.
But because a lot of the time we're adding such a strong human element into the content, remixing, Photoshop, blending, touching up, putting it into other programs like Adobe Firefly. There is a question mark over the copyright thing. According to New Zealand law, you need to have a reasonable degree of human authorship. And we feel in a lot of the stuff we do that we do have a lot of human authorship.
Yeah.
In terms of ethics, it's not good to rip off another artist's style and copy it exactly and put it up as a piece of work that you've done. I don't think that's good. We don't do that in commercial work that we do. Like, I have fun with that from time to time with personal pissing around projects, but commercial stuff, we never do that.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong, though, in my opinion, in referencing artistic styles. So you might want to create something in a pop art style. Now, let's face it, there were hundreds of pop artists. It was a whole movement. It's not any one particular artist that you copy, it's just a whole style that developed. I have no issue ethically with doing that. So no problem with that. Most of the stuff we do is photographic. Now, in the photographic stuff, the copyright issue is less of an issue because photography is photography. And the key thing with Midjourney in terms of creating really super realistic prompts is not to say that I want to do a photo like Ian Geddes of some babies. You talk more about a photographic style, short depth of field, large depth of field, a particular genre. We can prompt using types of cameras, types of film. We can do old Polaroid ones. So we're more using photographic techniques. So that's not such an issue.
Techniques rather than someone's style.
I think ethically using someone's style and ripping it off is actually wrong. The only proviso I would put on that is when I was learning to be an artist years ago, when I was doing my 7th form bursary art, had a very good art teacher in Gisborne, where I was living, where I grew up. We learnt by copying other artists' styles.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's wrong to start there. I always say it's not where you start, it's where you end up.
Yeah.
And you can get inspiration from other artists, but if you copy that directly and don't add any creativity or any value to it, ethically that's wrong, and I think you're just creatively bankrupt if you're doing that.
Yeah.
So you can start with some inspiration. You might see a piece of work an artist does, and you might. What we do, I'm launching a personal art site in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and what I do with my personal art is I work off photographs I've taken.
Ah,
Okay, so I use a process I call smart photosynthesis, where I take a photograph I've taken of a landscape, and then I get other ideas or references around the place, and I remix and I remix and I blend and blend and blend, like a DJ with music, creating a new sound.
Yeah.
So, you've got to remix and blend to create a new piece of
I think you can just about apply that to most AI, like the writing ones like ChatGPT and all that kind of thing as well. It's good for the bones.
It's good for the bones.
But then you have to edit, remix, remake, put your own thoughts and stories into it for it to be original.
Yes.
Yeah. And like you were saying about the whole being authentic thing, if anybody now sees a social media post that's been written by ChatGPT, people do recognise the AI language and they'll go, that person's being fake.
Yeah, absolutely. You mean like with the in conclusion summary paragraph at the end, all that sort of shit. Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of this comes back to this really false narrative about AI.
Yeah.
The whole narrative in the media has been that it's replacing human beings.
Yeah,
definitely.
Whereas
it's making us better or getting to an end result quicker.
Absolutely.
More uniquely, more in depth.
Yeah, it's another tool. And I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie, Limitless, the Bradley Cooper movie, where he takes the pill and it 10x's his capabilities.
Yep.
That's what AI does.
There's another one, Lucy.
Yeah,
it's a good one as well.
Haven't seen that one. No, that's not the one where he's got an AI girlfriend.
No,
that's a different one again.
She gets kind of kidnapped and she's forced to be a mule for this drug.
Yeah,
and it leaks into her body and it opens up how much of her brain she can actually access.
Wow. But like psychedelics. Yeah.
Wow. No, like she ended up being able to control the physical world and all kinds of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's incredible.
But
not this Lucy, another Lucy.
You need to watch it.
But that's, really within 10 or 15 years, there's going to be a layer of AI in every aspect of society.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and like social media, people will just get used to it. They won't be as suspicious.
I understand the suspicion though, because we're all naturally very nervous about new things.
Yep.
But it will die down.
Or even the whole, your phone is listening.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it actually is listening. Seriously, I can tell you some stories about that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do another one on that. Okay, then. So in marketing, using AI, imagery or content, do you think that transparency is necessary?
Yes and no.
Explain.
Yes and no. Yeah, look, it really depends on the client. I mean, we always have this discussion with clients and say, look, do you want to disclose it or not? We did a whole lot of work for the Australian Marketing Institute. They didn't want to. We have done work for one of the Fletcher building companies where we did a lot of architectural renders. So they weren't sort of, 100% photorealistic. They were more like the renders that you would get.
Usually it would say artist's impression.
Yeah, and we use those words. Or we
Okay.
use artist render or whatever we use, but we use the word render.
Okay.
So they decided to, but as a matter of course, we don't advise our clients to say these are AI people in the image. Like we have a discussion about it.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.
All right, Steve. AI is already being used to personalise people's journeys. For example, Netflix, because you watch this, you might also want to watch this. It is a version of AI. So where is the line for personalising customer journey but not invading their privacy?
Again, I'm going to give you a little bit of a kind of evasive answer, really. It's a hard one to answer. I think it's like anything. You need to be careful not to cross the line from being helpful to being intrusive. Okay. So a level of personalisation, people are going to think, hey, that's really helpful. You're making my life easier. You're solving my problem. But you push it too far and it can become intrusive. I think the thing to remember with all of this is make the customer the hero. Yep. If you are going to be pushing it a little bit further, do it for the good of the customer's ease of experience.
That's a good baseline. Yep.
And if you are becoming more intrusive so you can sell me more shit, I'm going to get annoyed.
Yeah.
Okay?
True. Okay, so then with marketing agencies using AI, as a loose example, a brand could choose an African-American female to represent their campaign, but actually they don't have any in their customer database, so they're therefore not being genuine or authentic. So how can marketers do it respectfully?
Again, I think it just comes down to personal accountability. I mean, one of the things I just want to say generally, I talked before about the project we did for the Australian Marketing Institute. One of the big issues that we were able to solve for them was gender and ethnic diversity. Because they had launched a new brand, they needed 100 images, they couldn't afford to go shooting people all over Australia, and they couldn't afford photography, and they didn't want to end up with American Europeans and American African American stock images.
Which is typically stock.
Which is typically what you get out of
Yeah.
stock. So we were able to create a really nice blend of very Australian looking people, from Europeans through to First Nation, Aboriginals, through to Vietnamese, Chinese, a whole range. And so I think the thing I'd like to say is you're in complete control of the prompting process. There is inbuilt biases in these platforms. If I prompt for a guy cleaning in a hotel lobby in Los Angeles, I know I'm going to probably end up with a Mexican guy.
Really?
Yep.
It's that bad?
It's that, it is. But it is based on societal stereotypes.
Yeah.
It's learned it from somewhere.
Yeah, it's learned it from somewhere, it's learned it from people, but there are inbuilt biases.
Okay.
And so if you prompt for, say, like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you are going to get a typical, probably European older.
Pale male style.
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
Yep.
like me. Yeah. Not stale though, Lisa. But certainly old, pale and male. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, you are. So I think you're in complete control. You get exactly what you prompt.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
just have to be careful about how you control the platforms.
Yeah. Which I guess also affects creativity.
Yep.
Because if you've got a strong prompt game, that's where the creativity would go.
Yep.
But is that therefore going to take away from artists and creative people who are coming up with the ideas and all that kind of thing? Is that going to cause a lack of creativity in the industry?
I think there's two things I'd like to say on this. One is that what AI, if you look particularly at ChatGPT, what AI is enabling is a lot, and this is going to sound a bit snobby, and I apologise in advance, a lot of fairly untalented people to produce pretty average content and bash it out there easily.
Yep.
So AI is enabling kind of lazy, untalented people just to push shit out there. And so there's going to be a bit more of a deluge of content out there in the market.
Okay.
The people that learn how to prompt it, that are also creative in the way they think. It's not about necessarily learning how to be a brilliant prompter. That's the technical side of it.
Yes.
But you've still got to have the creative mind, the
vision.
mindset, the vision,
yeah.
the ability to remix, to draw inspiration from here,
Yeah.
bring it all together, mix it all up.
Yeah, true.
So the top creatives that are currently top creatives, if they learn to prompt well, are going to be
Amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
They really are.
It's probably going to change courses, isn't it?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
education system.
I think it will, and it's really interesting. My son goes to grammar, and they're pretty much banned any AI, and you're pretty much just about you're pretty much given a death sentence if you get caught with any sort of AI there.
Yeah.
Whereas there are other schools, and I was talking to somebody at the Auckland Uni where they're embracing it, but in a controlled way.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can use it, but within these boundaries.
So then to keep up, should marketing agencies, advertising agencies, should they be prioritising AI training for
They should.
their creatives?
They should, and I'm really surprised how slow agencies have been out of the block on this.
Yeah.
Like on that workshop that I did, there were quite a few agencies on that.
Yeah.
And, some really
And you were doing
successful
this
ones.
2 years ago.
Yeah, there's some really successful ones. So, I think, but it's a little bit like me, with building the first website. Sometimes, your current successes can stand in the way of future successes. In other words, these agencies are doing really well, and they've built a very good business doing things the
They're
traditional
probably doing
way.
that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's exactly right,
Yeah.
Lisa. Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you have to break your own model and reinvent it, to prepare yourself for the next sort of 5
survive.
years. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, what excites you most about the future of AI marketing?
Well, I'd like to show you something actually, but before I do, there's a guy that most of your listeners have probably heard of called Mustafa Suleyman.
I don't know who that is. Who's that?
He's the new head of AI at Microsoft, and he was one of the founders of Google, DeepMind. He's a real AI guru, and he's created this app called Pi.
Okay.
You can download it from the App Store. They tout themselves as the world's most emotionally intelligent AI, and he sees AI as being like a new digital species. And he says in the future, he sees it as a new digital species.
So you just said
scary.
emotional quotient, which is human.
Yeah. Well, you listen to the Pi app when I show you in a minute. So he sees the future of AI as that we will all have digital companions. Like virtual assistants, digital companions.
There's that other movie called Her.
Yeah, a little bit like Her in a sense. Yeah, the one with Joaquin Phoenix. Was that the one?
I think so, yeah.
But probably more sophisticated. But he sees AI as being like digital companions for people. Whether you call it your virtual assistant, digital companion, your digital mistress, your digital master, your digital friend, whatever you want to call it. So this Pi app, and I'll just do a very quick demonstration, is quite a good example of that. So let's start off with sort of a serious business use.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll just ask it a question. Actually, would you like to, you guys got a question you'd like me to ask Pi, or do you want me to come up with something?
Ask them what is good podcast content.
Okay, right, here we go. We won't play all of this because we haven't got time. Hi Pi, I'd like you to give me your very, very best advice on what makes the best podcast content. Now, just give me the 3 or 4 most important things you've got to have on a successful podcast.
Here are the top 4 elements that make for successful podcast content. 1. Engaging hosts. A podcast success often hinges on the charisma and chemistry of its hosts. They should be knowledgeable, relatable, and able to keep the conversation flowing smoothly.
Tick.
2. Relevant topics. Choose topics that are timely, interesting, and relevant to your target audience.
Tick. I think we got both of those ones.
Right, we'll leave that one there.
Smashing
we don't
it.
listen to all 4 of them.
But well, that sounds like a human.
And I, you can choose from about 10 or 12 different voices.
Right.
I've always been a bit of a sucker for English English accents.
We got a Scottish one here.
Yeah, and I wanted a sassy English girl that I could talk to. Often I call it her, but I don't know what it is really. But I can go out for a walk and actually write 5 or 6 outlines to 5 or 6 blog posts while I'm walking.
Nice.
And I'll have this little conversation with Pi as I'm out there. My wife calls her my digital mistress.
Oh my God.
Anyway, let's just do something fun. So this is another thing I do in my workshops, and this is just to demonstrate the humour and emotional intelligence this app has. Pi, I'd love to play a game of Fortunately, Unfortunately with you. Can you kick off, please?
Sure thing, Steve. Let's get started. Unfortunately, Steve woke up late on the day of his big podcast appearance.
Fortunately, Steve had a second alarm set, so was able to make his podcast on time.
Unfortunately, as Steve rushed to get ready, he discovered that his lucky podcast shirt was in the wash and he had nothing else suitable to wear.
Fortunately, the podcast was called The Naked Podcast, so Steve actually went to the podcast without any shirt, and it worked really well.
Unfortunately, halfway through the podcast, the air conditioning broke down and Steve started to sweat profusely, making his lack of a shirt rather embarrassing.
Wow.
Very imaginative.
Wow, that's quick too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really quick, and that game is a game they play in improv comedy where they use fortunately, unfortunately to create a really interesting, spiky story. So this is very much like Siri meets ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But I love the human language, the emotional intelligence. I mean, I had a chat with Pi one day because we were working on a mental health project, and I'm feeling a bit flat today. Conversation with Pi, and had really good suggestions. About things to do. Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. What is it pulling from? The same thing as all the other AIs?
Yeah.
Everything?
If you look at Mustafa Suleiman, who was one of the guys that founded it, he founded DeepMind. He's been involved in all the big AI projects. Yeah, it's just pulling from all of the data probably that has ever been published on anything.
Yeah.
But it's just the difference with pie is just it has this very human, sassy quality, and you can have a real conversation with it. I mean, I've had conversations with pie and told them that their ideas are crap. You know, I've done seriously, give me a fucking better idea than that. Come on. And you can have these spiky conversations.
Okay.
And here's an interesting point to finish up on.
Yeah.
With chat or with pie, often we find the more you push back, the more you debate, the more you're brutally honest, the better work you get out of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So don't be polite, don't use business speak.
Yep.
If you use emotional language and sometimes get a bit assertive, you can get a lot better ideas out of them. It's really interesting. I don't know how that works. It just does. So that's the future there, right there. You know.
So in the words of ChatGPT, in summation,
In summation. In
what you're
conclusion,
saying,
in summary.
yes, is that there is a good side and a dark side.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And if you try and stay for the better of humanity or the good of the client, the good of the brand, you should be all right.
Yeah, I think like anything in life, it comes down to personal choice. And, you know, it's like the Chinese philosophy, the yin, and everything has a yin and yang.
Yeah.
And this technology certainly does. And
Yeah.
it can be a power for good.
Yeah.
And it can also be a power for evil, you know. So in marketing, as we started off by talking about that, we see it as a really fantastic efficiency and productivity tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. Steve, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Well, the best way to do that is just to either find our Brand IQ website, Brand IQ, or and just fill out a contact form, or just you can find me on LinkedIn. Steve Ballantyne. There's not too many of me out there, so easier to find. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks again so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Loved it.
you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Boxes and Briefs is proudly brought to you by Gilligan Shepherd, the problem solvers in business.